Hey everyone, welcome back. Just before we start, it's a fun idea if you type in where you're listening from. Thanks, like and subscribe, and let's get this started. I sit at the kitchen table, my fingers tracing the edge of the glass in front of me. The evening air seeps through the window, cool and uninviting, and the sound of distant traffic hums outside. Emily stands by the stove, her back to me, stirring something that smells like burnt onions. Our daughter Hannah is upstairs, her usual music rattling through the walls. It's quiet between us, but it's the kind of quiet I've grown used to, thick and uncomfortable. We haven't been talking much lately. She's been distant. I see it in the way she brushes past me without a word, in the late nights out, the quick glances at her phone followed by the silent, secretive smiles. I've noticed it, sure, but I've convinced myself it's nothing. Marriages go through phases. People get tired, distracted. It'll pass, I tell myself. I focus on my work, my responsibilities, and ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut. Dinner's almost ready, she says, her voice flat. I nod, taking a sip of water, pretending not to notice how cold she sounds, how detached. I try to remember the last time she looked at me with anything resembling affection, but the memory slips away before I can grab it. Her phone buzzes on the counter, and she picks it up quickly, typing something before setting it down again. Another secret, another message I'm not meant to see. My jaw tightens, but I stay quiet. I've told myself not to care, not to overreact. If I'm being paranoid, I'll regret it, but the coldness between us is getting harder to ignore. I've caught myself staring at her, wondering if she's thinking about someone else. Wondering if she's already gone in her mind, if I'm just the last one to figure it out. She serves the food, silent as ever. I eat out of habit, not because I'm hungry. She sits across from me, barely touching her plate, her eyes distant. The sound of forks scraping against plates fills the room, and I can't take it anymore. You've been distant, I say, my voice low but direct. I don't bother with pleasantries. We've passed that point. What's going on with you? She glances at me, her expression unreadable. Nothing's going on, she replies, her voice cold, dismissive. She doesn't even try to hide the lie. I wait, hoping she'll say more, but she doesn't. She never does anymore. It's been like this for weeks, maybe months. Little signs that something isn't right. Her staying out late, the way she pulls away from my touch. The laughter I overhear when she's on the phone with someone who isn't me. But I've convinced myself it's just a rough patch, a bump in the road. I've worked too hard to build this life, to be a good husband, to think it could fall apart over something as simple as infidelity. I'm wrong, though. I can feel it. Emily stands abruptly, pushing her chair back and looks directly at me, her eyes cold, distant. I'm going on a date tonight. I choke on the water in my mouth, coughing hard as her words sink in. My vision blurs for a second, and I can't believe what I just heard. I stare at her, my heart pounding. What? It's the only word I can force out. My throat feels tight, like something's lodged in there, and for a moment I can't breathe. She doesn't flinch. I'm going on a date, she repeats, her tone so casual it's like she's telling me she's running to the store. I hope you won't be too jealous. The words hang in the air between us, suffocating me. I feel something break inside, like a rope that's been pulled too tight for too long. My hands tremble, but I clench them into fists under the table, trying to keep control, trying not to explode. What the hell are you talking about? I ask, my voice low, but the anger is boiling just beneath the surface. Before she can respond, Hannah appears in the doorway. Do you mean you're going on a date? She asks, her voice sharp, scared. Are you leaving us for someone else? Emily just laughs. It's a sound I barely recognize, cold, almost cruel. Oh, sweetheart, your father's a typical loser, she says, turning her back to us. I need a real man. Hannah looks at me, her eyes wide with confusion, with fear, and my stomach twists into knots. My mind races, and all I can hear is the blood pounding in my ears. Everything feels surreal, like I'm watching this happen from outside my own body. I can't move. I can't think. Emily walks past me, grabbing her purse from the counter. "I'll be back late," she says. And just like that, she's out the door, leaving me frozen in my chair, staring at the empty space where she used to be. This is the moment that changes everything. Something snaps inside me. All the denial, the rationalizing, it's gone. In its place is something darker. I sit there, stunned, as the front door slams shut. Emily's words echo in my mind, tearing through the numbness that settled over me. She's out on a date, not sneaking, not hiding, no. She made sure I knew. She wanted to humiliate me in front of our daughter. She laughed like it didn't mean a thing, like I was nothing. I take a deep breath, my hands trembling. Hannah storms upstairs, her door slamming shut moments later. She's hurt, confused, but I can't focus on that right now. My mind is spinning. Emily's done this deliberately. It's a challenge. She wants me to break, to crumble under the weight of her betrayal, but I won't give her the satisfaction. I sit up straight, feeling the tension in my body shift from shock to something darker. Rage builds slowly, coiling in my gut, hot and consuming. I've spent years in this marriage, building a life for us, sacrificing. I've been a good husband, a good father. And now, this, I push away from the table, pacing the room. I can't let her win. I refuse to be the broken man she thinks I am. Her little stunt tonight, it's just the beginning, I know it. She wants me to react, to lash out, to make this easier for her, but I'm not going to give her that. No, I'll handle this differently, carefully, calculated. She wants to play games? Fine, I can play too, and I'll be better at it. I take out my phone and dial the number of a private investigator I've used for work before. Discreet, efficient, I'm not going into this blind. I need facts, leverage. Emily won't see this coming because she thinks she's already won. But she's underestimated me, just like everyone else has. When the investigator answers, I'm direct. I need you to look into my wife, her movements, her accounts, everything. I want full reports daily. There's a pause, then a simple, understood. I hang up, my heartbeat steadying. This isn't about catching her in the act. I know she's cheating. This is about control, about taking back what she's stolen from me, the power, the respect. She thinks she can walk all over me, that I'm weak. I'll show her just how wrong she is. An hour passes before Hannah comes back downstairs, her face red from crying. I want to say something to comfort her, but I don't have the words. Not yet. She's old enough to understand what's happening, but not enough to grasp why. I don't even fully understand the why. "Dad, is she really leaving us?" she asks, her voice small, barely audible. I shake my head. Not if I have anything to say about it. Hannah looks at me with a mixture of hope and doubt. "But she doesn't love you anymore, does she?" The words hit me hard, but I refuse to let it show. That doesn't mean she gets to destroy this family. I sound more certain than I feel, but I have to hold it together for her, for me. Later that night, long after Hannah has gone to bed, I sit alone in the dark, my thoughts spinning in 100 directions. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see Emily's face, hear her laugh as she walked out the door. The memory burns, twisting my insides until I feel like I might explode. But I won't. I'll keep it all in, keep it tight, focused. By morning, the investigator sends the first report. Emily had gone to a hotel after dinner. She met a man, spent the night with him. I feel the bile rise in my throat as I read the details. It's all there, plain as day. Her betrayal laid out in cold, clinical facts. This isn't just about sex. She's been planning this for a long time. Every secret phone call, every lie, it was all part of something bigger, and I was too blind to see it. She's not just having an affair, she's setting up her exit. There's money moving between accounts, transfers she's making without my knowledge. She's siphoning off funds, preparing for her new life, her new future without me. The bastard she's with isn't just some fling. He's part of her plan. Rage tightens its grip on me again, but this time it's cold, sharp. I know what I have to do. This isn't just about catching her. I need to destroy her, take back control before she rips everything away from me. I can't let her win. I drive to my office, my mind locked onto one thing: strategy. I've always been good at compartmentalizing, at separating emotion from action. It served me well in my career, and it'll serve me now. Emily's underestimating me. She thinks I'll sit back, broken, while she walks away with everything. But she's wrong. I call my lawyer the minute I get to my desk. I don't give away too much, just enough to get the ball rolling. I need to protect my assets, I say. We'll need to move quickly. Discreetly. Understood, he replies, not asking for details. That's why I chose him. He's efficient and doesn't need explanations. With every phone call, every plan I lay out, I feel a sense of control returning. I'm not sitting around waiting for Emily to make her move anymore. I'm in control now. She'll regret ever thinking she could do this to me. When I get home that evening, Emily is already there. She's sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine like nothing has happened. It's like she expects me to say nothing, to pretend everything is normal. But I won't let her dictate the terms anymore. She looks up at me and smirks. "Rough day?" she asks, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I don't rise to the bait. "Not as rough as yours is going to be." Her smirk falters, just for a second, but I catch it. It's the first crack I've seen in her armor. It won't be the last. She's playing a dangerous game, and she doesn't even realize I've already started playing too. Days pass and the reports from the investigator keep coming. Every detail, every transaction, it all paints a picture of someone who's been planning this for far longer than I thought. She's careful, but not careful enough. The money she's siphoning is traceable. The meetings with her lover predictable. One night I confront her again, this time more calculated. "You think you're clever, don't you?" I say, standing over her while she lounges on the bed, pretending to watch TV. She doesn't look at me, doesn't even flinch. "What are you talking about?" I lean in, close enough to smell the perfume she always wears when she goes out to see him. "You think I don't know what you've been doing? You think I'm just going to sit here and let you steal everything from me?" Now she looks at me, her eyes narrowing. "You're pathetic," she says, her voice low, dangerous. "You couldn't stop me even if you tried." I smile, but there's no humor in it. "Try me." The tension between us is palpable, electric. I can see the uncertainty flicker in her eyes just for a moment. She doesn't know what I'm capable of now, and that gives me the advantage. I walk away before she can respond, leaving her with the silence, the doubt. I know this is only the beginning. Emily has no idea how deep I'm willing to go, how far I'll push to take back what's mine. She started this war, but I'm going to finish it. There's no going back now. Each step I take, each move I make, it's all leading to one thing: her downfall. And when it happens, she'll never see it coming. I play the role well. The clueless husband, bruised but too passive to act. Emily believes she's winning. She struts around the house with a newfound arrogance, acting like I'm beneath her. She's been careful but not careful enough. I watch her, every movement, every phone call, every night she doesn't come home. It's all data. She's predictable. Every Friday she leaves just after dinner, claiming she's meeting up with friends, but I know exactly where she's going. The private investigator has given me enough to know that her lover is a self-made man, a tech entrepreneur who flaunts his wealth like a badge of honor. They meet at his downtown condo, a sleek glass-walled palace he thinks makes him untouchable. I have enough information to ruin them both, but I'm not ready to strike yet. I want them to feel safe, to think they're invincible. I begin to plant seeds. It starts small, conversations with Hannah that seem innocent but are laced with subtext. "Your mother's been distant lately, hasn't she?" I say one evening casually as we sit in the living room. She's curled up on the couch, her face buried in her phone. "Yeah, I guess," she mutters, not looking up. She's been pulling away from both of us lately, trying to make sense of the tension she feels, but doesn't fully understand. "I don't know what's gotten into her," I continue, keeping my tone light. "I've been trying, trying to keep things together." Hannah glances up, her brow furrowing slightly. She's not been around much, she admits. I nod, sighing. I just want her to be happy. But it's like no matter what I do, it's not enough. The words hang in the air, subtle but potent. Hannah starts to absorb the idea that her mother's behavior isn't just affecting me, it's impacting her too. Emily's selfishness, her absence, is starting to chip away at the perfect image she's tried so hard to project. Over the next few weeks, I build on it. Hannah starts asking more questions. Where's Mom tonight? She asks one Saturday, when Emily leaves for another night with her lover. Out with friends, I reply, the lie coming easily now. But there's just enough hesitation in my voice to make Hannah doubt it. The more she questions, the more she begins to resent her mother, seeing the cracks in the facade Emily has tried to maintain. It's working, slowly, but it's working. Meanwhile, I continue to gather information. Emily's lover, Greg, is as arrogant as they come. He's flashy. New cars, designer clothes, dinners at five-star restaurants. He thinks his money makes him untouchable. But money also leaves a trail. I've tracked his financial movements through the investigator, and while everything looks clean on the surface, I know there's more. People like him always have something to hide. One night I slip into Emily's home office while she's out. Her laptop is there, and it's easy enough to get in. She's never been cautious about security, probably assuming I wouldn't care to look. I find emails, messages between her and Greg. They're not just about love, they're about plans. Emily's siphoning money from our accounts, slowly enough that it wouldn't be noticed unless someone was paying attention. But I read through the exchanges, feeling the heat of my anger building with every word. They're planning a future without me, using my money to fund their new life together. The contempt she has for me is dripping from the messages. I can feel it in every sentence, every thinly veiled insult she throws my way. He's clueless, she wrote in one email. Doesn't even notice the money missing. I'll be out before he even realizes what's happened. I want to smash the laptop, confront her, scream in her face, but that's not my style. I close it carefully, every move deliberate. She thinks I'm clueless. She thinks she's won. Good. I want her to believe that. The next few weeks, I set the stage for what's coming. I meet with my lawyer, move assets into safe accounts that Emily can't touch. I let her think she's still draining me dry while I cut off her access piece by piece. Every day, she thinks she's closer to her escape, but in reality, she's walking into a trap. Hannah's distance from her mother is growing. She barely talks to Emily now, and when she does, it's cold, brief. Emily's noticed, of course. She's not oblivious to her daughter's shifting loyalty, but she's too wrapped up in her affair to fix it. And that's the real beauty of Emily's own arrogance. Her belief that she's untouchable is what's going to destroy her. One evening, I overhear a conversation between Hannah and Emily. I'm in the kitchen, out of sight but close enough to catch every word. Why aren't you ever here? Hannah's voice is sharp, accusing. You're always out. Dad's the only one who's ever around. I'm working, Hannah, Emily replies, but there's a nervous edge to her voice. You know I've been busy with what? Hannah cuts her off. You're never home. You don't care about us anymore. Emily pauses, and I can almost feel her scrambling for an excuse, something to make it all go away. That's not true. I love you, Hannah. I'm doing this for us. For us? You're never even here. I step away, giving them space to fight. It's working. Hannah is slipping away from her, just as planned. I need her fully on my side when everything comes crashing down. The day comes when I'm ready to execute the next phase. I've collected enough evidence to destroy Emily and Greg financially, but that's not enough. I need more. I want them humiliated, broken. I want them to feel the betrayal as deeply as I have. It starts with Greg. I've had my investigator digging into his business for months, and I've found what I need: shady dealings, tax evasion, offshore accounts. He's been clever, but not clever enough. I arranged for an anonymous tip to the authorities, setting the wheels in motion for his downfall. He's going to go down hard, and when he does, Emily's going with him. I stay quiet, keeping up the act at home. Emily is still strutting around, oblivious to the storm that's about to hit. She's careless now, openly flaunting her affair. One night, she doesn't even bother to lie when she leaves. "I'll be back late," she says, her voice dripping with indifference. I watch her walk out the door, my stomach tight with anticipation. The next morning, it all falls apart for her. Greg is arrested. The news spreads fast, headlines flashing across every news site, painting him as a corrupt businessman involved in illegal activities. I sit at the breakfast table, scrolling through the reports on my phone, a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Emily's phone rings nonstop. I watch her face as she picks up, her expression shifting from confusion to panic. She paces the living room, whispering into the phone, trying to understand what's happening. I can tell she's terrified. Good. She deserves every second of it. She turns to me, eyes wide. "Did you know about this?" I shrug, keeping my face neutral. "About what?" "Greg's been arrested. It's all over the news. They're saying he's been running some kind of illegal operation." I act surprised, leaning back in my chair. "Wow, that's unexpected." Emily's face pales. She doesn't know what to do, where to turn. I can see it now, the realization dawning on her that her perfect little plan is falling apart. And she has no idea that I'm the one who pulled the strings. Over the next few days, it gets worse for her. Greg is facing years in prison, and his assets are frozen. Emily's money, the funds she siphoned from me, are tied up in his accounts. She's left with nothing. The final confrontation comes late one night. Emily is sitting on the couch, staring at the TV, but her mind is clearly somewhere else. Her hair is a mess, her face pale and gaunt. She looks like she hasn't slept in days. I sit down across from her, watching her silently for a moment before speaking. "Tough week?" She glares at me. Just don't." I lean forward, my voice low, dangerous. "You thought you could steal from me, lie to me, cheat on me, and get away with it?" She says nothing, her eyes narrowing. "I know everything, Emily. I know about the money. I know about Greg. I've known for months." Her lips part, but no words come out. I can see the fear now, raw and real. "I've been planning this for a long time," I say, my voice calm, controlled. "Every step you took, I was watching. Every dollar you moved, I was one step ahead. And now you have nothing. Greg's going to prison, your money's gone, and soon you will be too." She stares at me, speechless. Finally, she manages to whisper, "You ruined my life." I stand up, looking down at her with cold satisfaction. "No, Emily, you ruined it the moment you decided I didn't matter anymore." And just like that, I walk away, leaving her to drown in the wreckage she created. Everything is in place. I've been patient, careful, methodical. Now it's time to bring this to a close. Emily has no idea what's coming. Her arrogance blinds her. She thinks she's won. Greg's arrest has rattled her, sure, but she hasn't connected the dots yet. She doesn't see me as a threat. She still thinks I'm the fool, the husband who didn't notice his wife slipping away until it was too late. I'm ready to prove her wrong. The plan is simple. Greg has been out on bail for a week, lying low, trying to clean up the mess I helped create. Emily's been scrambling too, trying to figure out how to salvage the money she thought she'd secured with him. Little does she know I've drained everything she touched, leaving just enough in our joint accounts to keep her unaware. I've been one step ahead this entire time. I lean back in my office chair, staring at the ceiling. I've gone over every angle, thought through every possibility. This ends tonight. The pieces are all set. I just need to trigger the final act. It's time to set the trap. I send a message to Emily's phone from an untraceable number using Greg's name. "Need to meet, urgent, usual place. 8 p.m., don't be late." She'll see it as a lifeline. Greg hasn't contacted her in days, and she's desperate for reassurance. She'll jump at the chance to meet him, thinking this is her way out. I watch her closely when she gets the message. We're in the kitchen, the silence between us as heavy as it's been for months. She reads the text, and her expression shifts. Relief, maybe? Hope? She tries to hide it, but I catch the flicker of something. Anticipation. She thinks her plan is still in motion. Good. Let her believe that. "I'm going out tonight," she says, her voice casual but forced. She doesn't bother with excuses anymore. She stopped pretending. I nod, pretending to be absorbed in my paperwork. Fine. She leaves the room and I can hear her footsteps heading upstairs, probably to change into something for him, something meant to impress. I wait until I hear the front door close behind her, then I move. I've already taken care of the details. The investigator had provided more than just information on Emily's affair. He found Greg's weak points too. Illegal business dealings, offshore accounts, tax evasion. I made sure all of it found its way to the authorities. But there's more. Tonight isn't just about ruining Emily's life, it's about destroying Greg too. I get in my car and drive downtown. The usual place is a swanky hotel where Emily and Greg have met before. It's tucked away private, the kind of place where people like Greg think they're safe. I've arranged for the police to raid it tonight. Greg's been operating just under the radar for too long, and tonight they'll catch him red-handed. Emily will be collateral damage, caught in the middle of the fallout. I park a few blocks away and walk toward the hotel, keeping my distance. I don't need to be there when it all goes down. I just need to know that it's happening. I stand on the corner, watching the entrance. Sure enough, after a few minutes, I see Emily pull up in her car. She gets out, dressed to kill, her expression determined. She doesn't hesitate as she walks inside. She thinks she's still in control. I glance at my watch. The police should be arriving in 10 minutes. Everything is perfectly timed. As I wait, the weight of it all begins to settle in. I'm not just ending Emily's affair. I'm dismantling her life. I'm burning down everything she's built with him, everything she thought she could take from me. And yet, there's a strange hollowness inside me. This should feel like victory. I should be reveling in it, savoring the moment when she realizes it's all over. But I don't feel that rush. I don't feel the satisfaction I thought would come with this. A part of me wonders if I've gone too far. If maybe in my pursuit of revenge, I've lost something of myself along the way. But I can't stop now. It's too late for second thoughts. As the minutes tick by, I see two police cars pull up to the hotel entrance. This is it, the final blow. I stay where I am, watching from a distance, imagining the chaos inside. Greg will be arrested, Emily will be humiliated, dragged into the public eye alongside him. Her reputation, her future, everything she's tried to build outside of this marriage, it'll all be ashes by the end of tonight. I wait until the police leave, then I get back in my car and drive home. I don't need to see the fallout up close. I already know how it ends. When I get home, the house is dark and silent. Hannah is in her room, no doubt still trying to process everything that's been happening between me and Emily. I haven't told her the truth yet, about the affair, about the money. She's already seen enough to turn against her mother, but I haven't given her the full picture. Part of me wonders if I should. Does she need to know just how deep the betrayal goes? Or is it better to shield her from that final, ugly truth? I sit down at the kitchen table, my mind racing. The silence around me feels oppressive, like the walls are closing in. I've spent so long focused on my revenge that I haven't thought much about what comes next. What do I do now? Emily's life is ruined. Greg is done. But what about me? What have I gained from all this? Hours pass. I sit in the dark waiting for Emily to come home, but she doesn't. It's almost midnight when I hear footsteps on the stairs. Hannah. She walks into the kitchen, her face pale, her eyes wide. She called me, she says, her voice shaking. Mom called me. I feel a chill run down my spine. What did she say? Hannah hesitates, then looks at me, her expression filled with something I can't quite place. She said you set her up. She said you've been planning this for months. Is that true? The air seems to thicken between us. This is the moment I've been dreading. The moment when everything I've done comes back to haunt me. I can see it in Hannah's eyes. The doubt, the fear. She's starting to piece it together. I swallow hard. It's complicated. Complicated? Her voice rises, filled with anger and confusion. You did this to her, didn't you? You used me, Dad. You turned me against her. I stand up trying to explain, but the words won't come. How do I justify this? How do I tell my daughter that everything I did was for us, to protect what's left of this family, when it's clear that I've torn it apart? Hannah, listen to me. No, she shakes her head, stepping back. I don't know who you are anymore. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I watch as she turns and runs back upstairs, leaving me alone in the dark kitchen, the weight of everything crashing down on me. I've won, but at what cost? I've destroyed Emily, sure, but I've destroyed my family in the process. The next morning, the headlines are everywhere. Greg's arrest is all over the news. His business is finished. Emily is implicated, though not formally charged. She's disgraced, her life in ruins. I should feel triumphant. I should feel like I've accomplished what I set out to do, but all I feel is empty. The phone rings, and I know it's her before I even pick it up. You did this. Emily's voice is venomous, filled with rage. You ruined everything. I stay silent, letting her words wash over me. Are you happy now? She demands. Was it worth it? I close my eyes, the weight of her question hanging in the air between us. I don't have an answer. I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know if anything is worth it anymore. You'll pay for this, she spits, before hanging up. I sit there, the phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. Emily's life is shattered, Greg is finished, but I've lost more than I ever expected. Hannah won't look at me. She won't speak to me. She's locked herself in her room and I don't know how to reach her. I thought revenge would bring me closure, that it would heal the wounds Emily's betrayal left behind. But all it's done is open new ones, deeper and more painful than before. I stand up, walking through the empty house. The silence is deafening now. I've achieved my goal, but it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a loss, a hollow, bitter loss. The house is quiet, but it's not the quiet of peace. It's the quiet of something broken, something that can't be fixed. As I walk down the hall, I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I hardly recognize the man staring back at me. He looks older, harder, like a part of him has died along the way. I thought I was strong. I thought I could control this. But in the end, revenge didn't free me. It just chained me to the past, shackling me to the darkness that Emily brought into my life. And now I don't know if I'll ever break free. I sit down at the kitchen table, staring at the empty space where Emily used to sit, where Hannah used to smile. I've torn it all apart, and for what? The door to Hannah's room stays closed. Emily's words echo in my mind. Was it worth it? I don't know anymore. The house feels colder now, empty. Not physically, Hannah's upstairs and I can hear her moving around. But it's like there's this barrier between us. She hasn't spoken to me since last night. The confrontation with Emily has left her rattled, shaken in a way I hadn't anticipated. And now I'm left wondering if I've won it all. I thought taking Emily down would fix everything. I thought it would bring peace, balance. I planned every detail meticulously, calculating how to expose her for what she truly is. But now, with everything unraveling, the victory feels hollow. I underestimated the emotional fallout, the damage it would do to Hannah. She looks at me differently now. The warmth, the trust, it's gone. She's seen a side of me I never wanted her to see. In my pursuit of revenge, I've twisted something between us. I sit at the kitchen table, the same place I've sat countless times over the years, trying to make sense of everything. Emily is gone, physically, emotionally. Her life, her reputation, her future, ruined. But the cost is starting to weigh on me in ways I hadn't prepared for. Hannah's door creaks open upstairs, and a moment later I hear her footsteps descending the stairs. My heart tightens, knowing she's going to confront me. I'm not sure what to say to her, how to explain that everything I did for us, for her. She appears in the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression a mix of anger and sadness. She looks so much like her mother, it's almost painful. Are you happy now? She asks, her voice quiet but sharp. I don't respond right away. The question hangs in the air, heavy with implications I'm not ready to face. I didn't do this to hurt you, Hannah, I finally say. I did it to protect us. Her eyes narrow. Protect us? You destroyed her. You destroyed everything. I try to hold her gaze, but I feel something crack inside me. She was the one who lied, who cheated, who stole from us. She's still my mother. The words hit me like a punch, knocking the wind out of me. You didn't just ruin her. You used me, Dad. You made me believe she was the enemy. You turned me against her. I want to deny it, to tell her that's not true, but I can't. She's right. I manipulated her, fed her just enough to make her doubt Emily, to make her see me as the victim. It was part of the plan, and it worked too well. I thought it was the only way, I say, my voice raw. I thought if you knew the truth, you would understand. She shakes her head, stepping further into the kitchen. The truth? You mean your truth? You twisted everything, Dad. You're just as bad as she is. The words sting. I stand up from the table, running a hand through my hair. I'm nothing like her, I snap, but even as I say it, I'm not sure I believe it anymore. Hannah stares at me, her expression unreadable. You think you won, don't you? You think because she's gone, everything's better now. But you didn't win, Dad. You lost. You lost me. My heart sinks. I open my mouth to argue, to tell her that she's wrong, but the words catch in my throat. She's right. In my quest to bring Emily down, I've lost the one thing that mattered most. Hannah, please, I start, but she cuts me off. Don't, she says, her voice barely a whisper. I don't even know who you are anymore. She turns and walks away, leaving me standing in the empty kitchen, the sound of her retreating footsteps echoing through the house. I want to follow her, to fix this somehow, but I don't know where to start. I've torn everything apart. I sit back down, staring at the table, my mind racing. I thought revenge would bring closure, that it would heal the wound Emily had left. But it hasn't. It's only deepened the scars. I've spent months, years even, building this plan, thinking I could control everything, but I've lost control. I'm just as broken as she is. The phone rings, jarring me out of my thoughts. I know it's Emily before I even look at the screen. My chest tightens, and I debate whether or not to answer. She's been calling every day since the fallout, trying to get some sort of reaction from me. Trying to get me to admit that I orchestrated everything, that I set her up. I let it ring once, twice before picking it up. You think you've won, she says, her voice cold, venomous. But you haven't. You've lost, and you're too blind to see it. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say between us. She's been publicly disgraced, her lover's in jail, and she's got nothing. The financial ruin I left her in is absolute. You'll pay for this, she hisses. You think you're untouchable, but you're just as dirty as Greg. I'll make sure Hannah knows that. The mention of Hannah's name pulls me back into the moment. Leave her out of this, I say, my voice low and dangerous. Why should I? You dragged her into this mess. She's as much a victim as I am. Victim, the word makes my blood boil. Emily never cared about victims, only about herself. She's nothing like you, I say through clenched teeth, and I won't let you drag her down with you. There's a pause on the other end of the line, then a laugh, low and bitter. You've already done that for me. She hangs up, and I'm left standing in the kitchen, gripping the phone so tightly I can feel the plastic crack under my fingers. The rage bubbles up inside me, but there's nowhere for it to go. I can't lash out anymore. I've already burned everything down around me. I collapse into the chair. My head in my hands. Emily's voice echoes in my mind, mingling with Hannah's words. You've lost me. You lost. I can't shake them. The days drag on, each one heavier than the last. I try to talk to Hannah, to explain, and to make her see that everything I did was for her. But she shuts me out. She's slipping further away, and I don't know how to pull her back. Weeks pass before I hear anything new from Emily. It comes in the form of a lawyer's letter, divorce papers. I knew it was coming, but seeing it in writing feels final. The end of everything we built, everything I thought I could fix. I signed the papers without hesitation, knowing there's no point in fighting anymore. I've done enough damage. That night, I sit alone in the living room, the silence of the house pressing in on me. I've won the war, but the victory feels like defeat. I've destroyed Emily, but in doing so, I've destroyed myself. Hannah barely speaks to me now. She spends most of her time at a friend's house, avoiding me, avoiding the wreckage of our family. I've tried to apologize, tried to explain, but she won't hear it. She's built a wall between us, and every day that passes, it gets higher, thicker. I wonder if I'll ever be able to tear it down. The next morning, I get a message from my investigator. Something about Emily's lover, Greg, is bothering him, something he missed before. I scroll through the email, my eyes narrowing as I read the details. Greg was using Emily. He had been siphoning money from her accounts, just as she had been doing to mine. I read it twice, trying to make sense of it. Emily wasn't the mastermind I thought she was. She was just another pawn in Greg's game. I sit back, the realization hitting me hard. This wasn't just about Emily betraying me. It was about both of us being manipulated. Greg had played her, used her vanity, her greed, to line his own pockets. And in my pursuit of revenge, I became part of that game. I let out a bitter laugh, the irony too sharp to ignore. I spent all this time thinking I was the one in control, but I was just another piece on the board. Emily was never the real threat. Greg was. But it's too late now. Greg's in prison, and Emily's life is in ruins. There's nothing left to do but pick up the pieces. I stand up, walking to the window and staring out at the empty street. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. I feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, heavier than ever before. I thought revenge would set me free, but all it's done is chain me to the past. I'm stuck here, in the aftermath, trying to figure out what comes next. I turn away from the window, the shadows of the house stretching around me. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I'm not the man I was when this started. I'm harder, colder, and I'm alone. There's no going back now. I know where to find him. Greg, Emily's lover, is out on bail, keeping a low profile, but I've tracked him. He's laying low in a condo on the outskirts of the city, a place far removed from the chaos I created. I've thought about this moment for weeks. I imagined walking into that room and tearing him apart, exposing him for what he really is. But now that I'm here, standing outside his door, I don't feel rage. I feel something colder, something more precise. This is about closure. I knock on the door, a deliberate sound that echoes through the hallway. For a moment, I hear nothing. Then footsteps, hesitant. The door swings open just enough for me to see him. He looks thinner, haggard, not the confident man Emily threw her life away for. His eyes widen when he recognizes me. "What the hell are you doing here?" His voice is strained, on edge. I push the door open fully, stepping inside without an invitation. He stumbles back, surprised, but too afraid to challenge me. "We need to talk," I say, my voice low, steady. Greg backs up, giving me space. The condo is sparsely furnished. Nothing like the luxury I imagined he would surround himself with. It feels temporary, just like him. "I've got nothing to say to you," he snaps, but I can hear the fear underneath his bravado. He's trying to assert control, but it's clear he's lost it. I took that from him the moment I set the wheels in motion. "You've got plenty to say," I reply, my tone calm as I walk deeper into the living room. "I just need to hear the truth." Greg stands near the window now, his hands shoved in his pockets, like he's weighing whether to fight or run. But there's nowhere for him to go. He knows that. "What truth?" he spits. "You ruined my life." I laugh, the sound bitter. "I didn't ruin your life, Greg. You did that all on your own. I just gave you the nudge." His eyes flash with anger, but he stays silent. I step closer, closing the distance between us. "I know about the money," I say quietly. "I know about the offshore accounts, the siphoning from Emily. You were using her the entire time, weren't you?" Greg's face pales. The confidence he clung to vanishes, replaced with the stark realization that I know everything. "Emily wasn't the mastermind," I continue, my voice steady, controlled. "You were. You played her. You used her vanity, her desperation, to fill your own pockets. She was just a pawn in your game." Greg doesn't deny it. He stands there silent, his shoulders slumping under the weight of the truth. He knows he's caught, cornered. "What do you want from me?" he finally asks, his voice barely a whisper. I stare at him, my anger simmering just below the surface. "I want the truth. I want to know why. Why destroy my marriage, my family, just to line your pockets? Was it worth it?" He meets my eyes for the first time, and I see it. Fear, regret, but mostly self-preservation. "It wasn't about you," he mutters. "It was never about you." I step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Then what was it about?" Greg swallows hard, the silence stretching between us. "Emily came to me. She was looking for something. Someone to save her from her life. I gave her that. Or at least I let her believe I did. But it wasn't about love. It was never about love." His words hit me like a punch to the gut, confirming what I already knew deep down. Emily wasn't just cheating on me. She was searching for an escape, something I could never give her. "I didn't plan for it to go this far," Greg continues, his voice shaking. "But once I had control of the money, once she trusted me, it was too easy. I used her." I feel my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "And you ruined everything in the process." He doesn't answer, his silence telling me everything I need to know. I take a deep breath, the rage bubbling inside me. "You manipulated her and she manipulated me," I say slowly. "But it ends here." Greg watches me, his eyes wide. "What are you going to do?" I don't answer. Instead, I turn and walk toward the door. I've already done what I came here to do. Strip him of whatever power he thought he had. The truth is enough. I don't need to ruin him any further. I've already taken everything. But as I reach for the doorknob, Greg's voice stops me. "You're just like me, you know." I pause, turning slowly to face him. "You think you're better than me," he says, his voice steadier now, like he's found his footing. "But you're not. You played her too. You used her to justify everything you did. In the end, we're the same." His words cut deep, deeper than I want to admit. I open my mouth to argue, to tell him he's wrong, but the truth hangs in the air between us. He's right. I used Emily, just like he did. I justified my actions with revenge. But in the end, I'm just as complicit in the destruction of my family. I leave without another word, his accusation ringing in my ears. The drive home is a blur. My mind races with everything Greg said, the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I thought I was in control, but now I see it clearly. I was just another player in this game. Emily wasn't the only one being manipulated. Greg had his hand in everything, pulling the strings, making us dance to his tune. When I pull into the driveway, the house looms in front of me, dark and empty. Hannah's still out, probably with friends, avoiding the wreckage of what used to be our home. I sit in the car for a moment, staring at the front door, wondering what I'll say to her when she gets back. How do I explain that I've failed? That the revenge I sought was hollow? That it left me with nothing? I get out of the car, walking slowly up the steps and into the house. The silence inside is suffocating, pressing in on me from all sides. I wander through the rooms, each one a reminder of what I've lost. The family dinners, the quiet evenings watching TV, those moments feel distant, like they belong to someone else. I end up in the kitchen, the place where it all began. Emily's betrayal, the announcement of her affair, it all started here, and now it's where it ends. I sit down at the table, my hands resting on the cool surface, my mind racing. I thought I'd feel relief after confronting Greg, but all I feel is emptiness. There's no satisfaction in this, no closure, just a gaping hole where my family used to be. The front door creaks open, and I hear Hannah's footsteps in the hallway. She hesitates, probably sensing the tension in the air, before walking into the kitchen. She stands in the doorway, her expression guarded. "Where were you?" I ask, my voice sounding hollow even to me. She shrugs, leaning against the doorframe. "Out." I nod, not pressing further. The distance between us is palpable, an invisible wall I don't know how to break down. After a long silence, she finally speaks. "I talked to Mom." I look up, my heart pounding. What did she say? Hannah's gaze is hard, her eyes piercing through me. She told me everything. About you, about what you did. I closed my eyes, the weight of her words sinking in. I knew this moment was coming, but I'm still not ready for it. Is it true, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Did you use me to get back at her? I want to deny it, to tell her I didn't mean for it to go this far, but the truth is staring me in the face. I did use her. I manipulated her just like I manipulated Emily, just like Greg manipulated all of us. I'm sorry, I finally say, my voice cracking. Hannah shakes her head, tears welling in her eyes. I don't even know who you are anymore. I feel my chest tighten, the air leaving my lungs. I've lost her. I've lost everything. I never wanted to hurt you, I say, but the words feel empty. She turns away, walking out of the kitchen without another word. I hear her footsteps fade as she climbs the stairs, leaving me alone in the dark. I sit there for a long time, the silence pressing in on me, suffocating me. I thought revenge would set me free, that it would give me closure, but it hasn't. It's left me with nothing. Emily's gone, Greg's destroyed, and Hannah, she's slipping away from me, and I don't know how to stop it. I stand up, walking to the window and staring out into the night. The darkness outside mirrors the emptiness I feel inside. I thought I was strong, thought I could control everything, but now I see the truth. I've lost. I sit in the stillness of the house, my mind turning over everything that's happened. Emily is gone, but the emptiness she left behind isn't the relief I thought it would be. I keep waiting for a sense of closure to settle in, for the satisfaction of knowing I won. But the victory is hollow, and the silence presses down harder with each passing day. Hannah hasn't spoken to me since that night. I hear her moving around upstairs, her footsteps soft, deliberate, but we haven't exchanged more than a few strained words. I've tried to reach out, to explain, but there's nothing left to say. She knows the truth now, knows that I used her, manipulated her to get back at Emily, and in doing so, I've driven her away. I close my eyes, leaning back in the chair, the weight of it all pulling me under. I thought revenge would be the answer, that it would bring justice for the betrayal. I was wrong. I underestimated what it would cost me. I've spent so much time trying to destroy Emily, to dismantle the life she built without me, that I didn't see what I was losing in the process. I glance at my phone, half expecting another call from Emily, but the screen remains dark. She's cut me off entirely, and I don't blame her. She was never the mastermind. Greg was. And now that he's exposed, she's left picking up the pieces of her life, just like me. A sudden knock at the door pulls me from my thoughts. I hesitate, my heart pounding in my chest. No one's come by in days. I get up, the tension coiling tight in my gut as I make my way to the door. When I open it, Greg is standing there. I feel my body stiffen. He looks different, more haggard than the last time I saw him. His smug arrogance is gone, replaced by something darker, something more desperate. What do you want? I ask, keeping my voice steady, controlled. Greg doesn't flinch. He steps inside without waiting for an invitation, his eyes sweeping over the empty room. He moves with the familiarity of someone who's been here before, as if my life is just another piece of the game he's been playing. We need to talk, he says, his voice flat. I close the door behind him, my mind racing. This isn't how I imagined things ending. I wanted to expose him, to watch him fall apart. But seeing him now, it's clear that he's already broken. There's no satisfaction in this. No triumph. I don't have anything left to say to you, I reply, my tone hard. Greg's eyes lock onto mine. Oh, I think you do. You and I, he pauses, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. We're the same, whether you like it or not. I'm nothing like you. He laughs, a hollow sound that fills the empty space between us. Aren't you? You think you're better than me because you ruined my life before I could ruin yours? You think you won? I don't answer. There's nothing to say. He knows, just like I do, that neither of us came out of this with anything resembling a victory. I manipulated Emily, Greg says, taking a step closer. But you did too. You used her just like I did. You used her to justify everything you've done. So tell me, how's that feel? I meet his gaze, the anger simmering beneath the surface. I'm not here to justify anything. You destroyed my family. Greg's smile fades, replaced by something colder. No, you destroyed your family. I was just the excuse you needed. The words hit me like a punch, and I realize with startling clarity that he's right. I was looking for someone to blame, someone to focus my anger on. But in the end, I chose to let it consume me. I chose to destroy what was left of my life. Greg turns toward the door, pausing before he leaves. You can't undo this, he says quietly. None of it. But if you're smart, you'll stop trying. He walks out, leaving me standing there in the wreckage of everything I thought I was fighting for. Later that night, I sit at the kitchen table, the same place where all of this started. I stare at the empty chair across from me, the one Emily used to sit in, and wonder if I could have stopped any of this. Could I have saved my marriage? Could I have protected Hannah from the fallout? I think about what Greg said, about how I destroyed my own family. He's right. I let revenge take over. I let it consume every part of me, and in the end, it's left me with nothing. The door creaks open, and I hear Hannah's footsteps. She pauses in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes filled with something I can't quite read. Fear, anger, sadness, maybe all of it. Dad, she says softly. I turn to face her, my heart heavy in my chest. Hannah, She holds up a hand, stopping me. I'm not here for an apology. I need to understand. Why did you do it? Why did you destroy everything? I look down at my hands, the weight of her questions suffocating. I thought I was protecting us, I whisper. I thought if I made her pay, it would fix everything. Hannah shakes her head, tears welling in her eyes. It didn't fix anything. I know. The words barely escape my throat. I know. She takes a step closer, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what you did. But I don't want to lose you too. Her words slice through me, raw and painful. I feel the tears prick at my eyes, but I force them back. I can't afford to break down now. I'm sorry, I say, my voice cracking. For everything. Hannah nods, wiping her eyes. We'll figure this out, somehow. She turns and walks away, leaving me alone in the kitchen once again. But this time, the silence isn't as crushing. For the first time in months, I feel the smallest sliver of hope. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how to fix the mess I've made. But I know one thing for certain. Revenge didn't set me free. It just chained me to the past. And now I need to find a way forward.